and I'm assuming this is correct, but he said the number of cases of influenza, regular flu, have dropped drastically.
Yes, I saw that. I saw that today. Right.
And
Yep.
it kind of makes me a little suspect about what they're calling COVID. You know, they get paid for COVID.
Right. Well, you know, when I went in and got tested, there were several people that wanted to get tested for flu and they wouldn't do it. They said, nope, only COVID.
Yeah.
Really?
So
How about that?
Well, let's see. I think it's 4 o'clock. Who all have we got on here with us? I see Andy.
Andy?
Here.
David?
There's Pling Pling.
Okay.
Jim's here.
Hey, Brad.
Hey, buddy.
Rob.
Yeah.
All right. We do we have any other commissioners? Do we have Jim or Gene?
Yeah, Jim's on.
Jim is on. Okay.
Jim is on. Okay.
Everybody's here except for Gene Trammell. He just called me a few minutes ago and said he would not be able to participate.
Okay. Okay. Well, let's call this meeting to order then. I believe we have a quorum. We have 4 commissioners. I think you've all had a chance to review our past minutes from November. Is there a motion to approve those minutes?
I'll make a motion. This is Todd.
Todd, a second?
Second from Rob.
Second by Rob. Any discussion? If not, let's have a roll call vote to approve the minutes. Let's go through the ones that are here. Rob?
Aye.
Todd?
Aye.
Jim?
Aye.
And Chris is aye. Minutes are approved. Let's move on our agenda. David, would you like to present and discuss the financial results?
Yes, we'll go over them briefly for November and December. Our income for November of $60,000, round number, was about $27,000 more than the budget and $30,000 above November of last year being 2019. The net operating income for November was $8,700, and that was $21,000. Again, I'm using round numbers. $21,000 above budget, because the budget projected a loss of about $13,000. So instead of a $13,000 loss, we had $8,700 in income. Net cash flow for the month was $3,753, which was $18,500 above the budget. The budget had projected a loss of just under $15,000. So obviously a very good month. And I'll switch now to December, another good month. We had 1,162 rounds, which was 55% more than the 750 rounds in the budget. And calendar year, as we tracked the rounds, we had 25,861 rounds, which was over $4,000 rounds more than the previous year, an 18.4% increase over the rounds played in 2019. Income for December of $39,000, just about $40,000, was about $16,000 above budget. And $8,300 above December for the previous year. Operating expenses for December were $1,347 more than budget. There were 3 pay periods in December as opposed to our usual 2, since our payroll is every 2 weeks. Our net operating income was a loss of about $17,000, which was $12,000 better than the budget, which projected a loss of about $29,000. So the budget projected for December a loss of about $29,000. We had a loss of just about $17,000. Net cash flow for December was $15,750. That was $14,100 better than the budget, which projected a loss of just under $30,000. So for the first 6 months of the fiscal year, our income was $140,000 more than budget and $130,000 more than the 6 months in 2019. Our gross profit on sales of $436,000 was $114,000 above budget. Our operating expense for the 6-month period was $20,000 above budget, resulting in net operating income of about $94,000, which was almost $94,000 more than budget, which had projected income of a whole $474 for the first 6 months of last year. Our net cash flow year to date, $97,700, was $95,000 more than budget, and compared with cash flow of about $17,000 in the previous year. At the end of December, we had a cash balance of $176,580. Today, we had a cash balance of just under $165,000. So Brad, in a moment, will give us an update on our month-to-date activity, but in November and December, we had 2 very good months.
Very good. Any questions for David?
What makes December actually kind of impressive is that I'm looking at the daily sales report, and the course was actually closed 14 out of 31 days.
Correct.
Because of, the Monday closures and then weather. But I mean, that's almost, on the days that Country Hills was open, that's almost 68 rounds per day on average for the 17 days. So that's actually very impressive. And if my math is correct.
Yeah, that's correct. Pretty close.
Now that we started closing on Mondays in October, have we had an opportunity to kind of look at that situation and determine if the cost benefit type analysis on being closed? Has that something that we've looked into yet, or is that we still need a couple more months of data to kind of look and weigh the benefit of closing on Mondays?
Through a couple more months of data and kind of generate some more information. I think it does a couple of things, as we've discussed at the committee level prior. It gives Brad and those guys a chance to kind of catch up just a little bit and breathe with a staff minus Jimbo at this point, and to look at, obviously, like today was a day that we missed some opportunity, probably on a holiday that's above 50 degrees. But I think it's kind of hard to change gears. Brad, you can chime in at some point, but I think it's kind of hard to change gears in that scenario. I think we have people used to now with the knowledge that we're closed on those Mondays. And we kind of, they expect that and know that, and we're not turning people away, if you will. But I think, as Brad has alluded to prior, we're steering our regular customers into times when we want them to play and when we're open.
I agree. I mean, all I got to go on is, obviously, since we've been closed, we've had record months. So that's been good, and exactly what Lynn said, and the third thing is, Rob, you play out there on a regular basis more than any of these guys. I think the golf course is in good a shape this time of year as it ever has been. The greens are phenomenal. Very, very little leaves. I think everything is in pretty good shape. And I think a lot of that is, with the day where they can do stuff without having to be interrupted with play. So I think it's worked out pretty good.
Okay. I'd agree 100%. Thank you for purchasing that blower. The course is playing better as far as winter golf than it has in a long time. You all seem to manage to round up all the leaves and mulch them, and the greens have been blown off, and it's I've been playing all through the winter, and I think I made a comment to you, Brad, last week, how clean the course is right now.
Yes, I agree.
It's nice.
Yeah, it's been good to have that unit.
That Buffalo blower can go so many places. It can get there so much easier and faster. And it's one of those things you can just pull it out and go to a specific place. And greens are a great example. We always fought leaves and the roughs and trying to get them out of the fairways and all that. But I think the greens are as clear as they've ever been. And we've gotten a lot of comments on that from the weekend play. So yeah, the Buffalo blower, that's what I call it anyway.
Well, just from the standpoint of pace of play too, it's you're playing 18 holes a lot quicker than when you're not looking for that golf ball. So
amen. Yeah.
That's a big one.
Okay.
I just bring it up. I just brought up the whole Monday thing because I know that there was a suggestion, when we had the meeting and made that decision, we were kind of looking at October 1st versus, daylight savings, which I thought both were great ideas. And I just thought, well, because next year it'll come around, we'll look at it again. And I was kind of curious as to, the October 1st versus daylight savings. I thought they were both good ideas. And I guess that's kind of where I'm going with all this.
Yeah. And I think that's something to look at for next year. October was, could have been considered a month early. But, as it turned out, we ended up with good numbers. So I think wait and see how everything's going next year, shape of the course, how the rounds are going and all that. And, we can certainly drop that back to November if we need to and all that. So I think that's a play it by ear deal.
Yep. That's all I got.
Okay.
Hey, Lynn, this is Todd. Did you say without Jimbo?
Yeah, Jimbo left. He left in September.
Oh, he did. Okay, so he's gone for good. Is what you're saying?
He's in Florida.
Oh, okay. All right. Thanks.
Okay. I think we've kind of transitioned into Brad's summary. Brad, what else do you have for us?
All right, we're about halfway through the month. Definitely more of the kind of winter months that we're used to. We're at about 50%, so we're about right on budget. What happens this time of year is we get a lot of frost in the mornings. You see these things like the high is going to be 45. Well, a lot of times that high might be at 3:00. So we have so many seniors and stuff that a lot of times if if they don't get out there and play by 10 o'clock or 11 o'clock, they're really not coming. You know, we don't have many people this time of year that play after 12 o'clock, whether they can't get in 18, whether the sun goes down quicker, whether the cold gets up quicker. So, you know, the other thing is we were very lucky in November and December where weekends were some of the higher temperature days. Right now, you know, the weekends have kind of been the lower temperature days. So, but we're hanging in there. And I think if we get some decent weather, you know, as Rob precluded to, if we just get a couple days, you know, with a 5 in front of them, we can do 50, 60, 70 rounds. So that makes up quite a bit. So we keep plugging along. I've also, I've ordered some equipment for some guys that had some gift certificate money. They were waiting on the new clubs to come out. So I think merchandise should pick up in the next week or two as well. So hopefully by the end of the month, we make another budget and can keep on rolling.
Was the income from those sales in the prior year or this in the new year? Those gifts?
You know, this will be in the new year. This will be in the new year.
Okay. Okay. I've got a question, Brad. I don't know if it's for you or really for Lynn, but I'm playing tomorrow. But when I was last there a few weeks ago, one of you tell me about the 18th green and what was going on with it.
A little bit of dollar spot on the front side of that green. Is that what you're? Pardon?
The high side?
Yes, sir. It's basically a little bit of a disease, and this time of year we've treated that disease. It's in check, but it just hadn't had enough ability to regrow and go through that.
Is that the only green? That's the only one I recall.
Yes, sir. We've had some issues with that before. In fact, almost at that exact spot.
Yes.
Okay. All right. Anything else for Brad? Okay, Lynn?
All right, just briefly to report on hours, we averaged about 3.5 to 4 people on the golf course in the month of December and the first part of January. Most of our hours were used as it relates to just regular maintenance as far as leaf removal, a little bit of mowing on greens. Obviously, the mowing in other areas has greatly reduced other than to remove leaves, as has been discussed earlier. We were able to do a little bit of a temporary repair on the return to the cart path on 6, as we've talked about at previous meetings. That'll be replaced when it's time to grow some Bermuda grass. We'll do a permanent repair as it relates to that. Upcoming items, we've got our pre-emergent bid will open January 22nd. We'll get that stuff down fairly quickly. We're looking in the process of looking for a mechanic, either part or full time. We're down that position at this point as it relates to that. One thing that we referenced a little bit at the last committee meeting was, you know, we have a transfer line from Lower Station Camp Creek to the golf course for irrigation. That kind of meanders through several of the subdivisions that are back that way. We're kind of currently working with Mr. Lamar, Public Works, and the developer of that subdivision to make sure that we are active and that line is out of the way of construction and the continued development of the neighborhood across the street by May 1. As most of you know, carts came on the scene middle of December. We have, as of last Friday, David, is that right?
Yes.
As of last Friday, we wrote a check to EasyGo.
Yes.
Yeah, funds were transferred from the city to the Country Hills account. Last Friday, a check was made. We'll begin making payments on January 25th of 2-3 days from now for each month for 60 months at a clip of $2,760 per month. And that'll take care of that deal.
Making payments to the city, repaying our loan.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Other than that, that's where we are and where we have been relating to the golf course.
Lynn, all the bunkers back in play with rakes that we intended
Yes, sir. I mean, obviously, this time of year we have a little bit of a challenge as it relates to when it's wet, and when it's dry, and when it's frozen, of getting them raked at the appropriate time. There'll be some days they'll be raked, and some days that they're not. But yes, sir. There's rakes out, and they're there. That the sand that was purchased has been placed in those. We need some more at some point, but that's where we are with relating to that.
Okay. Any questions, other questions for Lynn? All right. Let's move on to some other business. And I know that Rob has done some work and had some discussions with Lynn and with myself about projects that we've discussed in the past on the range, and has done some work to try to push that question down the road and get some numbers for us. I think as a result of those conversations, the first one probably is, for lack of a better term, what we'll call the ditch barrier for our range balls. And I think, Lynn, I think you've got some a report on where that may be at.
Yes, sir. We've kind of struggled with the creek crossing the driving range for a number of years. We've had different barriers or things going across there. We've investigated whether the area can be excavated, paved, concreted, relocated, piped, all those things. There's some environmental issues relating to that, and some flow issues. But long story short, I think in working with Public Works, we've kind of come up with a solution that I believe will be beneficial, and that's the creation of a 2 to 3 foot tall concrete barrier on the driving range T side of the creek. And as Rob did a lot of work to kind of diagram that out, we have a lot of golf balls that just kind of roll into the creek. They disappear down the creek. It's a lot of man hours it takes to excavate those balls out of that area, as Brad can attest to greatly. And so our thought was, could Public Works aid us as they have in the past, and kind of do a little bit of a barrier through there, maybe in phases, 100 to 150 feet at a time, and create a permanent barrier that would probably capture 70 to 80% of the balls that would go into that area over time. I think that's something Trace and I have talked about numerous times, and he's committed to getting done. Obviously that's on his timeline and the city's timeline, but I think that's something that'll happen and be of great benefit for the golf course on the expense side.
And you've offered to, I think we've done one time before with them on projects, you've offered to pay for that. We would
Yeah,
pay
we'll,
for
as we move closer, we'll offer to look at the materials and the stuff and to go, and then let him determine how that falls out.
Okay. Any questions for Lynn on that project?
Yeah, guys, this is Jim. Guys, I'm conceptually, I get the idea of it. I guess if it's 3 feet high, and I'm sure you've already thought about this, but if it's even 2.5 feet high, that 1 in a million super thin shot is 2 or 3 high enough to send that ball back to the driving range, back to the golfers.
We think most of the stuff that gets in there is rolling when it gets there.
I don't disagree with that at all, and I know that's what it's stopping for. My concern is that one that is no more than 8-10 inches off the ground going 150 miles an hour. That's my only concern. Is the one skull that would that end up sending a ball back towards basically the hitters and the cars.
I think it's at that point, Brad, it's, what do you think it is? 125 ish?
That
yards, Brad?
Yep.
Is it closer on one side than the other?
Yeah, a bit.
Yeah.
And most of
guys, I love the concept, and I totally get the idea. As soon as I heard 3 foot high concrete, I just got scared of a backboard effect.
I understand. Most of the issue is, if you're standing on the range tee, that middle target green, if you will.
Yep.
That one's like 125 ish, I think, from memory. not from playing ability, but from memory. And so I think if the majority of the issue is maybe what, Brad, 50 yards ish left of there and 50 yards ish right of there, probably.
Yeah, 50, 75 yards. Yep.
So if we had that barrier starting in that location, I think we'd be ahead of the game. If we figure out that, at one point we had a structure a long time ago that was like the driving range netting in a triangular form that kind of was on the ground on the T side and up and suspended up in the air on the backside. And it worked quite well until it ended up in Saundersville Road after it rained. So that's why we're looking at the concrete part of the equation.
All good. Maybe in the worst case scenario, maybe have to go back and repurpose some type of compression padding on the front of it.
Yeah, some kind of something like a backstop padding, or
I'm not saying that that's what's going to happen. I'm more overthinking what could happen.
Yeah, it's a good thought.
Some pretty bad golf shots in my life, and I'm not going to admit that some of them have been mine.
No, I understand.
I think that's a really good question, and I'm not sure how you'd ever pour it, but if that wall were angled one way or the other, it would eliminate that potential.
I would. What I've got in my mind is that, it's kind of like the side of like a car barrier that has a little angle to it on the front side. That's what I've got in my mind. I'll know more as Trace comes forward. Yeah,
but good question, Jim.
No, absolutely. I don't care what we put up there. Let's just.
No, I mean, you're right. If
I've been for 10 years.
If you do angle it backwards, then it will just help some of those balls lift over to the backside of the creek anyway.
Kind of going to be caught to the right anyway, just a little bit. Sure. As the general nature of that creek moves across the range.
That kind of leads me into a little bit of my curiosity. I know there's a lot of ideas out there. I don't want to be fiscally irresponsible, but I also do not want to look a gift horse in the mouth. And I believe that the numbers that we're seeing are not forever numbers. So looking at some capital projects is really, I think, something that we should be doing right now. Some things that we just some dreams that have never been able to be done before. We might be in a spot for some of those ideas as well.
Well, with that in mind, let's go to the next project that I know Rob has done some work on. And Rob, you want to talk about the range and the possibility range pad and those kind of questions?
Sure. I guess it might be easier for me just to share the screen. Should I bring up the photographs that we have, or just talk about it, Chris?
Yeah.
Whatever you think best conveys the idea, Rob.
Okay, let me see. Let me try this. Been curious to try this. If I lose everybody, we'll probably have to all come back in. But let's see. Oh. Well, I guess I have to preload it. Anyway, I couldn't figure it out. What we're looking at is we actually had somebody come out and take a look at the situation. I wish I could pull up my kind of the documents I've been working on, but I guess everybody's familiar with the area of the driving range. So the first thing I thought is there's that area right off the sidewalk as you're approaching the driving range, and where we're going is we want to put down a concrete pad. If we're on mats now, anywhere between 5 and 5.5 months. I think the mats went out early this year, Brad, about halfway. I think we're middle of October, and I think the mats stay out until almost April, or maybe a week or two into April. So we're on mats now, artificial grass mats, 5, almost 6 months out of the year now. So we thought it would really enhance the range experience, which has seen a substantial increase over the past 12 months in revenues. If we could put down a concrete slab somewhere in the back part of the range, so that we could put the mats on a concrete slab, which is pretty much what every other golf course does. So the back of the range is about the length of the back side of the range from where you start hitting balls to the other end of the range is about 200 yards. And it slopes down on a
200 feet.
200 feet. I'm sorry, 200 feet, right? And we had somebody come out and look at the situation. One of the ads that I thought would be beneficial to the course, as you're coming down the sidewalk from either the parking lot or the clubhouse, or the front door of the clubhouse, or the back door of the clubhouse to the range, there's a step down portion from the sidewalk down onto the grass of the range, and it's really getting worn, and it's really quite a drop down. So we had somebody from Nashville Concrete, Richard Hayes, come out a couple of weeks ago and basically gave us a bid to put in a new step system from the sidewalk into from the sidewalk down, and then a connecting sidewalk to a 210-foot concrete pad across the back of the range, which would be basically 6 feet wide, 4 inches thick, and then it would run the entire back length of the back of the range, 210 feet. Then it would just be a matter of transferring the current pads, which they're square pads, 5 by 5. I think there's 12 pads back there, Brad.
I believe that's right. And I think I got 5.5 by 5.5.
Yeah, which there would be plenty of room with 200 feet. Anyway, the bid was $7,500 to do the 210-foot concrete pad, and then since they were already out there, they figured that the steps and then the connecting sidewalk would be another $275. They would just do it for materials, basically, since they were out. But it kind of gives us an idea. I sent the idea out. I put it up in a proposal form, and Brad, Lynn, and Chris and I, we kind of looked at it. And then there's been a lot of really good kind of ideas that are starting to spawn from that idea. Chris, go ahead. I mean, he invited me over to Bluegrass on Saturday morning, and now I kind of have a completely different idea what may be a better system. So, and I know this is something that has to be opened up and bid, or Public Works is going to be involved, but I just wanted to make sure that we're moving in this direction. I think the irrigation ditch barrier is something that's definitely needed. It's gonna save a lot of money, but on the other hand, a nice concrete slab to improve enhance the range experience would actually be a big revenue generating, and it would be nice for a variety. Brad could tell you many reasons why a concrete pad would be very, very beneficial to Country Hills right now. In climate weather, the pads will sit on a nice, firm, level, flat surface as opposed to an uneven surface right now. When he has large groups of people, and he's starting to book those already next year. He's told me when you get 120 to 140 golfers, they're on the range for about 90 minutes. They can do a lot of damage when you're on the real grass. It would be a good opportunity. We could, put them back on the mats, on the pad during the tournaments in the summertime. And there would be times when it would allow for maybe move people back on the mats for a week or two to allow, recovery of the real grass. It's nice to have a real grass range because a lot of courses are strictly going to mats because of the low maintenance costs. But to have the opportunity to go back and forth, I think would be a big benefit for Country Hills. But I'll let Chris talk to you a little bit about what they got going on at Bluegrass. They have a really nice system there, which I don't know, maybe it's on a wish list or not. I don't know. But,
well, as Rob said, we looked at both areas Saturday morning, and I think our retaining wall down there, or our ball wall down there, is important to lower our expenses, both from lost balls and labor hours. I think the range pad is something, as Rob has mentioned, that can enhance revenues and make for a better experience for the players that we get out there, is to have better surfaces. And there's a lot of things that can be done with mats. And I know sometimes at times of the year at Bluegrass that we will put people on the mats Tuesday through Thursday, and then we'll go to the grass on Friday through Sunday when we've got more play. But I like the concept of eventually trying to arrive at a teeable surface in those mats, which is a good hitting surface, but it's also something you can tee up balls in. And Rob and I looked at that area and wondered if we poured 2 pads and left that slope as it is. And the upper area, maybe there's a 60-foot pad. In the lower area, maybe there's an 80-foot pad. And maybe the lower area has a new hittable, teeable surface, and the upper area uses the mats that we've got for the time being. Or we put the pads in and we use the mats that we've got on both areas. But, something to give us a better surface, something to try to build on the increase in range revenues that we've got, and just make for a better experience for the players and the guests that we have out there. I wonder toward that line, if we come to some idea, at least on the pads, is and some surface alternatives, is that maybe Lynn can look into that and have us some specs and even some bids by our next meeting to pursue this.
Be very much possible. I mean, just in going back to Mr. Carr's comments about the fiscal responsibility and everybody else, is just, and I'll send this out either this evening or tomorrow, but prior to the past couple meetings, we kind of sent out a projection of our savings account, if you will, or our cash balance over the last few months. And as David alluded to, we've got about $176,500 in the savings account, if you will, as of the end of January, and $165,000 today. If we stay on budget for the next 3 months, we're projected to have a reduction in that cash of somewhere between $55,000 and $60,000, which would leave us at a low point of $115,000 this year if we stayed on budget. And that's a much better and a much different situation than we've been in the last several years. So I think, yes, it would be very easy to come up with some options, alternatives, biddable specs for a number of different surfaces. And I think you guys would be surprised to find that a continuous surface is not is a little more expensive, but not substantially more expensive than mats.
And
So
that's something that I love the idea. And Rob, thanks for putting as much time as apparently you put into it. I think if we do the pad, which honestly I think is a no-brainer when I've seen so many like them, and then the continuous. One thing about continuous is individual mats don't get up and walk away. Continuous, basically just by the laying of a rope, Brad can determine if we're on mats today or not. It doesn't matter what time of year it is. And there's no labor involved in moving the mats. Now, Chris, the teeable, I'm not exactly sure where the elevation and cost goes with teeable, but
It just changes the base, Jim. You end up with
is that what it is?
You can
Well,
put a T in the one. You can put a T in the ones we got.
Yeah.
I mean,
I guess my head was that if we do the pad, let's go ahead and also get a quote on what a continuous cover for that is, and let's make the
we can
whole
look
thing
at
brand
options
new.
and alternatives and have you guys some real numbers before the next meeting.
Makes sense.
Lynn, this is Eddie. I've got a question for Andy. Andy, I know that the city has a contract price for asphalt that we use. Do you know if we have a contract price, which would be a discounted price for concrete?
I don't think so, because I know when we do concrete jobs in the park, we have to contract it out with just the lowest bidder. And I think even Trace in Public Works gets concrete from various sources, basically depending on who can get it up here.
Okay.
I don't think we have one particular vendor.
I'll be happy to put all that stuff together in a form that everybody understands where we are and what the options are and exactly how many linear feet, depth, PSI of concrete, how many stations, where they are, et cetera. And I can do that prior to the next meeting.
Lynn, I can get you the contacts of the guys that we normally have quote jobs at the park when we have to do it.
That would be great.
Yeah.
Okay, good. And maybe it's something we could have and look at just a few days before the next meeting, Lynn, so we can all have time to digest that. One of the things that, as we look at this, and I heard your projection of 115,000 when hopefully we're going back cash positive. I know we've mentioned in the past that going back a few years, I guess there was a desire to have a cushion of $50,000 before we go back at our low point. And sounds like that, we can look at this kind of project and still stay comfortably above that number. We want to try to build on last year, but we don't know what this new year is going to entail. So it behooves us certainly to be a bit conservative with this, and yet what can we do to enhance the experience at Country Hills?
Yes, I agree. And there, like we talked about, there's a number of items that would be beneficial for everybody, but that we can kind of pull together as well. But I think I can pull together some information that would be apples to apples, and then have some good numbers to be able to make decisions from.
Everybody okay with that approach?
Hey, Chris, this is Todd. I stepped away from the screen a moment. Did you talk about the system that Bluegrass has regarding their driving range?
Well, I didn't go into specifics, but basically, again, like I mentioned, we do rotate on and off of the mats. And in fact, this time of the year, the range is covered in a plastic material. The grass is covered. And so we're strictly on mats in the wintertime, but it's approximately 120-foot surface. Each hitting bay is going to have a little wood divider, little low wood divider. So each hitting bay is 10 feet in width, which is plenty. And, it's a continuous, in fact, there's it was put in 4-foot wide, 40-foot long sections, and 3 sections cover this area. And
Okay.
it's a good hitting surface. It seems to be durable. I think we've had it for, I don't know, maybe going on 3 years now. It's, again, what I call teeable. You know, what we do now with mats, and I even see some people do it at bluegrass that don't want a tee, don't put a tee in the mat. They move off to the uncovered grass areas off to the end and put a tee in to hit the driver.
Tear that up.
That's what we do now at Country Hills. Even when we're on the mats, you know, if you want to hit it, generally, you can get a tee in those mats, but it's not the easiest thing to do, I think, from experience. But, you know, I just like to enhance that range experience. It's been a good revenue producer for us. You know, I will tell you at outings at Bluegrass, we're going to put you on the mats. And I'm part of that outing in the Traveling Seniors. I'm part of that outing at Country Hills and the Traveling Seniors. And, you know, but at Bluegrass, we're going to put you on the mats if you're an outing. And do we have enough space for everybody? No. But you learn that that's what you got, and you rotate through it. You know, people hit balls, somebody else takes their place over a period of time, and that's come to be expected. And I don't think that's an unreasonable situation. Okay, so Brad, you're going to bring us back some numbers. Rob, we appreciate the work you've put into it, as was mentioned, and kind of keeping these questions in front of us. You know, one, to lower our expenses and maybe end some of the staff frustration over the ditch, and two, the second project to try to enhance our range experience and hopefully build on the revenue growth that we've had there. Is there any other business before us today? If there's no other business, then we're going to adjourn the meeting. Thank you all for your time. Meeting's adjourned.
Thank you, Chris.
Thank y'all. Appreciate it.
Thanks, guys.
Bye now.